I was sipping coffee from a porcelain mug, the city skyline glittering outside my penthouse window, when my phone buzzed with a message I hadn't expected. It was from my sister, Emily. A photo of her smiling next to her brand new BMW, wrapped in a perfect red bow like something out of a commercial. The caption read, "Best parents in the world. So grateful." Red heart. My fingers tightened around the mug, though I forced my face to stay calm. People around me, colleagues, friends, they only knew the polished version of me. Olivia Carter, the woman who always had it together. Designer silk blouse, hair in place, voice steady even in high-stakes meetings. They didn't know what it took to get here, or the memories I kept locked away like fragile glass. The truth was, seeing that picture brought it all rushing back. The humiliation, the sting of favoritism, and the moment that changed everything for me. The night my parents handed my sister the world on a silver platter while leaving me with nothing more than 3 crumpled dollar bills. I set the mug down on the marble counter, staring at the photo. My heart was steady now, not broken like it had been back then. I had built my own life, carved my own success, but the wound had never fully faded. And now, with one simple photo, the past was knocking at my door again, demanding to be faced. I was 19 the night everything unraveled. It was Emily's birthday, the kind of suburban celebration my parents loved to showcase. Balloons tied to the mailbox, the smell of barbecue drifting through the backyard, neighbors laughing under strings of fairy lights. I remember standing there in a plain sweater and jeans, invisible in my own family, while Emily basked in attention, her perfect curls bouncing as she twirled around. Then came the big reveal. My parents led her to the driveway, their faces glowing with pride. And there it was, a brand new BMW, gleaming under the floodlights, a massive red bow perched on top like the crown jewel of the night. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," my mom exclaimed, her voice ringing with joy. Emily screamed, hugged them, and slipped into the driver's seat like she belonged there. Everyone clapped, phones out, capturing the moment.
And me?
I was handed an envelope. Inside, 3 crumpled dollar bills. 3. My father chuckled as if it were some kind of joke, muttering, "Don't spend it all in one place." The laughter stung worse than the money itself. My cheeks burned, my throat tightened, and my hands shook so badly I had to clench them into fists. No one noticed, or maybe they just didn't care. I slipped out before the cake was cut, walking down the dark street alone. Each step felt heavier than the last, but there was a strange clarity forming in my chest. I realized then that I wasn't just unwanted. I was dismissed, forgotten, written off before I'd even begun. When I got back to my room, my grandmother's bracelet caught the light on my dresser. She'd given it to me a year before she passed, pressing it into my hand with a whispered, "You'll make your own way, Olivia. Don't wait for anyone to hand it to you." I held on to that bracelet like it was armor. That night, with nothing but $3 in my pocket and my grandmother's words echoing in my ears, I made the hardest decision of my life. At 2 a.m., I packed a small bag, left a note, and walked out of that house. I blocked their numbers before the sun rose. It wasn't revenge, it was survival. And it was the first step toward becoming the woman they would never see coming. Leaving at 19 was like stepping into a storm without an umbrella. I had no plan, no savings, just a small duffel bag and the stubborn belief that I deserved more than $3. I rented a tiny studio apartment in the rough part of town, cracked paint on the walls, a heater that rattled like it might give up at any moment. My bed was a thrift store mattress on the floor, and my meals were mostly instant noodles. Still, that little space was mine. No comparisons, no favoritism, just me trying to figure it all out. At first, the loneliness was suffocating. Nights stretched long, and self-doubt became my constant shadow. But every time I looked at my grandmother's bracelet on my wrist, I remember her words. "Make your own way." My first job was as a waitress at a downtown diner. I worked the night shift, pouring coffee for truck drivers and exhausted nurses, memorizing their orders like it was a game. One evening, a woman named Sandra, a lawyer who came in after long hours, noticed how quickly I picked things up. She asked me about school, about my plans, and when I admitted I'd dropped out of college to survive, she didn't look at me with pity. Instead, she smiled. "You're sharper than half the interns at my firm. Don't waste that," she said, sliding me her card. That moment was a spark. I started taking community college classes again, nights after my diner shifts. Business courses, marketing, finance. I was exhausted, constantly running on caffeine, but I felt alive. I was learning how to build something of my own. Sandra became a mentor. She encouraged me to apply for a scholarship, connected me with people who saw potential instead of baggage. With her guidance, I landed an internship at a small startup. It didn't pay much, but it gave me access to something invaluable: experience. I learned how to pitch ideas, how to negotiate, how to fail, and try again. I stayed late, asked questions, taught myself skills that others overlooked. I became obsessed with digital marketing, teaching myself code late at night with YouTube tutorials and borrowed library books. My first real win came when I helped a small boutique increase its sales through a social media campaign I designed. It wasn't huge money, but it proved something to me. I could create value. I could build. From there, I started freelancing. One client turned into three into 10. I kept my head down, never posting about my successes, never giving my family any reason to know how far I was climbing. On social media, I was invisible, just the quiet girl who disappeared. But behind the curtain, brick by brick, I was building an empire they couldn't imagine. I wasn't chasing revenge. I was chasing freedom. And slowly I was catching it. It was 10 years before I saw them again. 10 years since that BMW night, since the $3, since I'd walked away. By then, Olivia Carter wasn't just surviving, she was running her own marketing agency in Manhattan. The invitation came unexpectedly. A distant cousin was getting married, and Emily reached out. Her message was almost casual. "It'd be nice if you came. Everyone will be there." I almost ignored it. But something in me, maybe curiosity, maybe closure, made me say yes. The venue was a sprawling estate outside the city, chandeliers dripping from ceilings, champagne flowing like water. I walked in wearing a fitted navy dress, heels clicking against marble. Heads turned, but not because they recognized me, more because I carried myself differently now. When I finally saw my parents and Emily across the ballroom, time froze. Emily looked exactly the same, only sharper: designer gown, diamond necklace, her husband's hand at the small of her back. My parents stood beside her, laughing, proud as ever. When their eyes landed on me, the laughter faded. "Olivia," my mother breathed, as if saying my name out loud confirmed I was real. "Yes," I said smoothly, offering a small smile. "It's been a while." We exchanged stiff pleasantries, but soon the questions began. Where had I been living? What was I doing now? I let them circle me like curious strangers, building the tension, letting them assume. Finally, Emily tilted her head. "So, are you still waitressing? Or did you ever finish school?" The words were honeyed with pity. My heart should have clenched, but instead I felt calm. This was the moment. I gestured toward the far corner of the room. "Why don't you all come with me?" They followed, confused, as I led them outside to the terrace where my car was parked. Not just any car, a sleek black Tesla with my company logo on the license plate. My driver stood at attention, waiting. "This is mine," I said simply. "Well?" one of them. Their eyes widened, but I didn't stop. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through photos, my office, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the skyline, the award my agency had won last quarter, the team of 20 employees who looked to me for leadership. "I run Carter & Company," I said. "We specialize in digital campaigns for global brands. Last year, we crossed 8 figures in revenue." Silence. Emily's jaw literally dropped. My father blinked like he was trying to reset his vision. My mother's hand flew to her chest. You own that," she whispered. I met her gaze evenly. "Yes. Every inch of it. Built from the ground up." They stared at me as though I'd stepped off a spaceship. I let the quiet stretch, giving them space to absorb it. Then, with deliberate calm, I added, I left with $3. That's what you thought I was worth. But I turned it into everything you see now. The words hung in the air like thunder. For the first time, I watched their faces shift, not just disbelief, but shame. Emily finally laughed, brittle and forced. Well, good for you. I guess we underestimated you. Her voice shook, though, betraying what she really felt. And for the first time in a decade, I wasn't the girl with empty pockets and shaking hands. I was the woman who owned the room. For a long moment, no one spoke. The hum of the party inside felt distant, muffled, as if the terrace had become its own little world. My parents stood frozen, Emily clutching her glass like it might steady her. I let them sit in their discomfort. For years, I had sat in mine. Finally, my father cleared his throat. Olivia, we didn't realize. No, I interrupted gently, but firmly. You didn't want to realize. My mother's eyes shimmered, guilt finally breaking through her polished mask. We thought Emily needed more help. You were always so independent. A bitter smile tugged at my lips. Independent because I had no choice. Emily bristled. So what now? You've proven your point. Congratulations. Are you here to gloat? I shook my head. No. I don't need revenge. What I need is change. They looked at me, puzzled, so I laid it out. Dad, you taught me that money defines worth. I want you to unlearn that. Volunteer your time. Mentor someone who can't give you anything back. Learn to value people for more than their bank accounts. He flinched but nodded slowly, like the words cut deeper than he expected. Mom, you hid behind fairness while playing favorites. I need you to actually see people for who they are, not just who makes you look good. Start with yourself. Therapy. Reflection. Do the work. Her lips trembled. She didn't argue. Then I turned to Emily. She lifted her chin, defensive. And me. You, I said carefully, were handed everything, but you never built anything. I want you to find out who you are without the gifts, without the applause. Get a job that doesn't come from Dad's connections. Prove to yourself you can stand on your own. Her face flushed, anger sparking, but beneath it I saw fear. These aren't punishments, I added softly. They're chances. Because if I could crawl out of nothing with $3 in my pocket, you can certainly face yourself. Silence followed. They exchanged glances, but none of them spoke. And for once, I didn't rush to fill the gap. I straightened, smoothing the fabric of my dress. I'm not asking for apologies. I'm not asking for love you didn't give me. I'm giving you conditions. Take them, or keep living the way you always have. The choice is yours. But don't expect me to be part of your lives if nothing changes. For the first time, they were the ones scrambling to meet my terms. The power had shifted, and it wasn't moving back. Weeks passed after that wedding. At first, I half expected silence, my family slipping back into their old patterns, pretending nothing happened. But then, slowly, cracks began to show in the walls they had built around themselves. My father sent me a photo one morning. He was standing outside a community center, sleeves rolled up, teaching kids how to fix old bikes. The caption was short, almost awkward. You were right. Feels good. My mother called, not with excuses, but with trembling honesty. She admitted she'd started therapy, that facing her reflection was harder than she imagined. I used to think perfection was love, she confessed. But I see now I confused control with care. Her voice broke, and for the first time in my life, I heard sincerity. Even Emily changed. It didn't happen overnight, but I saw her LinkedIn update. Started my first job in retail sales. No fanfare, no diamond necklaces in the photo. Just her in a polo shirt, hair tied back, eyes uncertain but determined. It was small, but it was real. And me? I sat in my office one evening, the city glowing beneath me, holding my grandmother's bracelet between my fingers. I thought about the girl who left home at 2 a.m. with only $3 in her pocket, her heart heavy, but her will unshakable. That girl had become this woman, a woman who had built not just a business, but a life on her own terms. A woman who no longer needed anyone's approval to feel whole. I slipped the bracelet back onto my wrist, smiling softly. My grandmother had been right. I had made my own way. And as I looked out at the skyline, strong, steady, unafraid, I whispered the words I wished that younger version of me could have heard on that dark night. You were always worth more than $3.